Hey, welcome back to the 167. Today we're talking potluck, the Sunday morning message, and of course, we'll hit you with the 7-minute story. Welcome to the 167.
Hey, thanks for joining us here today on the 167 podcast as we are here with Pastor Lucas Motley, Pastor Jake Reeves.
Heyo.
Hey, yeah. And I am your host for today, Pastor Rick George. We're here talking about the message that Pastor Lucas brought this past week from our I Love My Church series entitled, What You Bringin'?
What are you bringing?
I don't know. What are you bringing?
You going to the cookout? What you bringing?
What you bringing?
It's already been brought.
Yeah. So
Are you bringing brats?
I'm bringing a brat. I brought the. Yeah, that could go all kinds of different ways. So
The thing that I always love to bring to cookouts especially is squirt soda, because it's like never ever do you ever drink squirt soda
No.
except like at a cookout when it's 1,000 degrees outside.
is that the one that had a little grape, the grapefruit little?
Yeah.
It's like yellow.
Yeah.
There was
that's
a
good-
squirt vending machine, like the back end of the clubhouse that I played golf at in high school. And,
Squirt Diet Right
and they were like, anytime you got one, it was crazy dusty. Like you could tell that
Yeah.
nobody drank out of it. And
So I love the squirt. That's good. If you love the squirt soda, let us know.
In the
Maybe
comments.
we could have like a
sponsored by
potluck of sodas.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Soda potluck.
A soda
Soda
pop luck.
Yeah. I was
Oh,
gonna say,
a potluck?
A pop luck.
oh man.
Man, we're going all over. All right, so let's jump into the message. What are you bringing from this past week? What are some things that you wanted to say? Man, you just didn't have time. It got thrown into the cutting room floor.
Sure. I mean, like, really, I kind of started off that section in 1 Corinthians 12 and then skipped to the end where it's like, or say it says 1 Corinthians 12 and then 1 Corinthians 14:26 is what I end with. But in between that is a ton of stuff that is like, you know, procedural stuff for churches. You know, of course, there's the famous love chapter where it's like, hey, if you do all of these things correct and you're not loving people, then it's worthless. And so I didn't get to hit that, which is basically like, it doesn't matter if you're serving, it doesn't matter if you're going to a life group, you're checking all the boxes that we check you to do. If you're doing it out of obligation instead of love, that's not where it's at.
So you wanted to preach the entirety of 1 Corinthians.
Exactly. just 3 chapters.
Yeah, no.
It's like
And apparently you can't do that well in 30 minutes.
it's
You know.
200-ish verses.
Sorry.
you know. No, I mean, like that was a big part of it. And then really just, I don't know. I love pressing on the thing where, really the body part, where it's like going, there are tons of churches that are like, well, we're a nose church. So if you're not a nose, we think that you're weird and you're gross. If you're, if we're ears and you're a finger, we think you're legalistic. Well, if you're fingers and you're toes, then, you're a heretic. I'm just like going, man, like, why can't, I always like look at people like that where it's like going, man, we need people who are super steeped in the word, and we need people who are loving people, and we need mercies, and we need people who are tough love.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, the body of Christ is just like our human body, that it is made up of so many different parts. And again, it's a great illustration that sometimes you don't think a lot about that part of your body until that part of the body is hurting or that part of the body is missing. Then you realize how valuable, how important that part is. And so it's true physically, it's true spiritually with the church family. So
When you get that deferred pain where, somebody else came up to me after service and talked about, it's like the thing if you cut off your big toe, like your big and your little toe affect your balance quite a bit.
Oh, gosh,
and so it's like it's your toe, and then when it's gone, your whole body is thrown out of whack.
Yeah. So let's see. One of the main points that you kind of hammered over and over, kind of the central point of the message was, I'll paraphrase it, What makes the church great is not what you get from it, but what you bring to it. It's what you're bringing that makes it great, not what you're getting. So
Almost nailed it verbatim.
yeah, so all right, that's a great paraphrase, nailing it verbatim. So go deeper with that. Let's talk a little bit about bringing something and getting something.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that marks and is probably a real contentious point in modern Christianity is, people accuse churches of, well, it's just consumeristic. It's just this, it's just that. And it's like going, whether or not people view your church as consumeristic or whatever it is, like 9 times out of 10, what people talk about when they talk about a church is what they get from it. I came and I felt welcomed. I came and, they recognized my kid. I came and I knew somebody. I felt comfortable. I felt this. I felt that. Like, not too many people go to a church and said, well, I stayed at the church because nobody was serving and I knew I was needed there. Like not too many people go to a church and go, oh my gosh, this church needs me, and stays.
Yeah. In general, isn't that kind of the culture we live in, though? That, it's what I'm getting from whatever it is, that there doesn't seem to be, and maybe I have, jaded eyes as a little bit older person, but it seems to me like in our culture, it's shifting more and more away from the loyalties of this is home, this is family, this is, my place of employment, this is this is my cell phone service. This I've always had.
Jump ship, baby.
T-Mobile. Yeah. There doesn't seem to be that commitment, and it's no. What are you giving to me? Oh, you're offering Netflix? I'll jump in. I'll become part of T-Mobile. I'll jump to this. I don't know. Am I seeing things differently as an old person, or do you guys see that the
I think
same
there's a
way?
cultural thread there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like having. I grew up in a town of 4,000 people, and so it was very much like you had the restaurants you had the. I think we primarily at the time we only had Alltel, which became Verizon, and then you could really go out and go get U.S. Cellular if you really wanted. But
I almost said like U.S. Cellular.
Yes, but it was legitimately like you had loyalties, and that was one of the things too. With a small town, it was the thing of like if somebody tried to open up a restaurant or a shop, and if it didn't serve the locals, if it wasn't bought into the community, it didn't survive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so like for my family, we're La Coretta people.
ooh,
Right?
Shout out to La Coretta.
Yeah, so yeah. This episode brought to you by
Chicken Magnifico.
So we're loyal to them. We never think of going to the other.
I was like, don't go to my name.
Oh man,
To the other
Any other Mexican restaurant.
So if we're going to go out for Mexican food and we're in town, we're going to La Coretta. And it's because there's a sense of loyalty. We know them. We
were
have a
neighbors for a while,
connection.
right?
Yeah, they used to live right across the street from us, the owners. And so I don't think about going somewhere else. It's not that it's right or wrong, I guess, for other people. It's just that sense of loyalty. And sometimes I think, like with the local church, we need to have that same sense of family and loyalty, and like it's not just, oh, they don't sing the songs I like, or somebody said something that hurt my feelings. It's no, this is family, this is home. I have a place there. I'm needed there. I'm going to serve there, and I'm going to make the body the best it can be by doing my best there.
oh yeah.
Well, yeah, and I agree, and I think it, like Jake said, I grew up in a very small town, and it was until I was 10. Like then I moved to a bigger town, it was about 8,000. Until I was 10, I lived in a town
city.
of 1,100.
Okay, yeah, you had me there.
I was like, it was 1,100, and so if you weren't gonna buy your appliances at the local appliance store, you had to drive 30 minutes to go, and so like if you came to them and said, hey, I need a washer dryer, and they were like, well, here's what it costs, and you're like, man, I can't afford that. The two of you would begin working something out. It's like, or like the same thing. We had an IGA grocery store. It was a local grocery store.
yeah,
I know.
man.
Shout out to the IGA.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I'm going, and it was messier because, like I said, you could go up there and put something on your tab. Be like, oh yeah, put it on my tab. And then later on, they'd be like, hey, you need to pay your tab. And then if you didn't have the money, that got messy.
Yeah.
But it was like, but you'd work it out, like, and so it was this relationship based thing. And so because it's just like family, like you said, it's going, well, I have to live with this person. I have to see this person at school, at church, like, you had to do that. Otherwise you had to drive clear somewhere else. And I'm going, so I'm going to be invested in that. I'm going to behave myself. I'm going to watch my manners. I'm going to choose my words carefully. And there's this whole other level to, what am I bringing to this thing? It was, what am I bringing to my community? Am I somebody who just takes from my community, or am I somebody who is entrepreneurial and provides a service?
So I know this isn't something we really talked about, but just listening to you talk and the cultural aspect of it, how much of our life do you think mimics social media? So like we have friends and relationships on social media that really aren't friends and relationships at all.
Yeah.
Like, and how much of that do you think then mimics what we live in real life? And we don't, like as a culture, maybe we don't see the value of investing in and developing deep, meaningful relationships of giving and serving and in the church and because we're so used to this superficial kind of relationship. Do you think there's some connection there?
I think there absolutely is. I mean, having, I'm square in the millennial generation, and so, but every day I'm getting older. What's up with that? But as I look down, even from where I'm at, I see, it's only, this is such a older person thing to say. I feel like it's getting worse in the sense that we're being trained and we're being conditioned to engage, in shorter and shorter clips and, things that sensationalize. And so when you do that, relationships are long. They're to go back to our food and our potluck thing. It's the crock pot, man.
Yeah.
It is, the best one is when you actually remember to turn it on 8 hours before, and you don't have to turn it up to high and knock it out in 4. So,
but instead we invented the Instapot.
oh yeah,
Yeah, so we just have all these cultural things with, the cancel culture, and now it seems like, well, if I don't like something you said, I'm just going to cancel you. I'll go somewhere else. I'll do something else, and it just leaves a void.
Oh yeah.
It's an instant gratification
Yeah.
thing of, I don't have to deal with this. Like, that's really what cancellation, or like people that walk away from friendships, it's like, well, this got messy, and that's more energy than I want to expend on this relationship, so I'm just going to ghost you.
Well,
Yeah.
and we've watched that happen just a lot in the church. People who were, deeply plugged in, people who were serving, and one offense occurred or something, or one thing, or one, believe it or not, the pastors, we are not perfect humans. They have one incident.
Hey, speak for yourself.
They have one incident with a pastor, and it just tears apart everything. Which, I mean, like, I'm thinking back, even when we were talking through the consumerism and people coming to church, and I'm like, the most important thing, believe it or not, it's not what songs we're singing. Are they hymns? Are they Chris Tomlin? Are they Matt Redman? Are
That is
they
absolutely
Brandon
the
Lake?
most important thing to me.
I know it is. We did a Chris Tomlin a couple weeks ago. Back off me. The most important thing, and the thing that I consider, like, that I'm, besides just my own worship of Jesus, the thing that I'm like, okay, today was good or not, were the people there and were the people singing.
Yeah.
Like, that's all that matters. I
Yeah.
mean, aside from my own worship
Yeah.
and
Well, and how, like, for about 10 years I did worship ministry, and that was like, I could not balance those two things because I would talk to so many worship pastors, and this is why I appreciate your ministry here, because I would talk to so many worship pastors and they were very concerned with all of these other things, and I would look at them and go, yeah, but did anybody sing?
yeah.
I think some of the most, and I think that we all know that some of the most powerful moments are when the singers back away from the
Oh, you
mic,
pop your ear out,
Yeah.
and, just
and
like,
then you
take
hear
it.
everybody singing, and I'm like, because that's the moment where they're ministering to the Lord, and it's
Exactly.
and so I'm going, these are such great moments, and so
Which, if your voice, which goes back to your point, it's so much better than you coming to hear the band
Yeah.
for you to come and add your voice to the choir. Man, that's
Yeah.
what it's about, man.
And we understand that on a fundamental level in our culture, where you can go to a secular concert, some country music started singing, and he'll start his song, and then everybody,
Yeah.
I got friends.
Oh,
And it's like, it's the community
please.
aspect of it that people enjoy, because you go, oh, I know this song, they know this song. We are, in
Yeah.
this moment, connected to each other.
Yeah.
I'm nervous nobody heard what you just said because they were finishing the opening lines.
Of,
Yeah.
I got friends.
No,
I've been to a Royals game.
Yeah. So, so relationships are so important, like in life, and even more so, I think, within the local church, to have those deep relationships that you can interact with people and learn and grow, and you rub each other, and like that verse says, as iron sharpens iron, that I'm afraid we're losing some of that connectedness where, I'm rubbing you in a way that's sharpening you. And now I'm rubbing you and I'm just leaving. I don't
Yeah.
want to be sharpened, and we're losing that aspect of growing and learning together through some differences of opinions and likes, and like when you eat that spicy food, that's something that's just like, man, it just, my taste buds are popping, and like, I love this. And well, then your belly kind of a little bit later is like a little angry, it's like,
Me don't like it.
yeah, me don't like the food. And but it doesn't mean that your stomach then says, I'm not going to be a part of the body anymore, because it's like, no, it adjusts, and it's like,
It's trying to talk to you and say, work with me, dude.
yeah. And so anyway, it's just so interesting, dynamics that take place in the church that, and I love the body. So I love our church, but I love the church, and I just want it to be the best it can be. And the only way it can be the best is when everyone is at their best, bringing their best.
Well, and I love that what you're saying there, because that's why I'm like, I want to say it again, because I think that you are really nailing it on the head when it's like, yeah, like, when iron sharpens iron, and I'm going, that makes a terrible noise, and it chips away these rough edges, and it's hard and it's grating, and I'm going, we are such a conflict adverse culture. Like I said, we don't even want to listen to dissenting opinions anymore. It's just like, well, this is what I believe, and I'm only going to listen to the people that agree with me, rather than coming together and being challenged with one another and going, hey, let's really find out what we believe and why we believe it, and being in those relationships where we go, man, I just don't know, I'm worried about you.
Yeah.
And really listening to each other out of love, not out of, I'm going to prove my opinion to you.
Yeah.
And that only happens, I believe, in a healthy way in person. Like, we're taking our interactions online through text messages, just being on the internet. And that's why I think it's so important. Like, I love our online family. I love that people are listening to this podcast. I love, I like listening to podcasts and challenging myself with different things. But sometimes I end up in a rut just trying to prove my own point instead of listening. I might listen to something that I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm going, I want to listen to it to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then that only happens when, like I said, if you are on our online family, we absolutely love you, but you need to be in person in community somewhere, because I really think that is an essential part, is like what you said, almost rubbing up against somebody that is not like you, and trying to find out where our faith is in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
The upcoming slogan for the church, make church great again.
Oh, but
Great.
GRAT.
Yeah, I know.
Boom.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's better.
I can hear that slogan.
So, in our last kind of moments together, and hopefully we can finish up, I'm going to tell you about my vacation. So you're taking up too much time.
Yes.
I want to show you some pictures and some things. So
You guys
I wanna
only-
leave-
Only show us. Don't.
yeah, I want to leave plenty of time for me to talk about my vacation. So, but no, talk to us a little bit, Lucas, kind of in the preparation of the message, and how much of your thought process kind of linked back into people using their gifts, using the way God wired them to make our church, to make New Life Community Church the best church it can be. Did that factor in at all, of different giftings and how people can use that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's like I tried to call out a bunch of people in the beginning too, and it was actually impromptu, but I called out Matt Hamilton
Yeah.
because it's funny. I was just sitting there, I saw him, and I was like, man, that was a unique thing. And so I just said it in the moment, and because Matt, literally, we have this online assessment that you can take for our place class. It's your spiritual gifts and inventories, and it would take me like 4 hours a week when we would do that class to grade those tests. And he's like, I can't believe you're doing that. And he wrote me an Excel spreadsheet that tabulates all that information and spits me out like these reports. And I'm like, this is amazing. This ministered to me in an incredible way. And it's everybody that's taken that test since in the last 4 years has been using Matt's Excel. I've been using his Excel spreadsheet. And I mentioned that on Sunday morning. And then he came to me and goes, you're still using that? Like, there are more elegant solutions. And so now he's going to work on something else for me. And so I'm going, that's great. And so like, people think that they don't have anything to bring.
Oh man. Yeah.
And they really do. And it's really just getting to the bottom of, what can you do? How can you use that for the Lord?
Yeah.
Do you, like even our missions thing that we're doing this month where, they're using horses to minister to people. And I'm just going, I don't know, what crazy thing, like, I love ice cream. I don't know, go give out some, like, go ahead.
The challenge with that is like sometimes you may have this amazing skill like Excel, or you do something really specific with work or something, but you have to be here regularly because it may not be something that's like on week one you're like, I'm amazing at this thing, can you use me? And we might stare back at you and be like, I don't know. But then we get 9 months down the road, and as long as you're here, we're like, oh my goodness, we have this thing going on. You're the perfect person. Thank you. But that takes patience, to be in the body.
Because the better we know you, then we think, like you said, then we think of you.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to talk a little bit more about this spiritual gift of ice cream. Like whatever, like you got my attention. I'm like, I never saw that before, and I'm intrigued, and I want that gift.
The homemade ice cream gift?
Yes, I do.
You got to turn that
Come on,
crank.
can I get an amen from yes?
I have to have a really strong, like, right arm only just to turn the crank for the, like, mix the ingredients right.
But it is like maybe your gift is that hospitality gift, and it does involve some ice cream or a meal, and it just you have
People that bake,
yeah, you just have no idea how that impacts somebody. And you're like, well, just bake some cookies. No,
Well,
you ministered to them.
Well, and I'll touch right there. It's people do that where they're like, oh, that they're going to make some homemade cherry cobbler, and I'm going, I talk to them about life groups, and they're like, well, I can't lead a discussion in life groups. I'm like, I don't need you to lead a discussion. I need you to host a group.
Yeah.
I need you to run the vacuum, put something in the oven, and then I'm going to send a group leader to your group. You're just going to be the host. You got a good living room, and I'm like, and people don't think, they're like, well, my house is clean. Like, that's not a spiritual gift. I'm like, no. I want you to.
You have not seen some of the houses
that we host life groups in. Like, it's terrible. But I'm just like, those are such such great spiritual things. And like I said, people do that all the time where they're like, well, Sundays I go fishing and I'm not here in the body, and like I can just survive on my own. And I'm going, yeah, but we actually lose out on that.
Yeah.
We like, whether or not you miss us, like, we are missing out on you, and there's somebody that is not getting the experience in Christ that they are because our hand is missing on Sunday morning.
Yeah. So I don't. We're about out of time. Favorite potluck story? One, like 30-second, like just a memory, a potluck. Either of you, like what do you got?
So, I mean, I grew up in an old school American Baptist church, so potlucks were a large part. We were, right next to the Methodist church, so basically we're. I was we were the family that typically went, well, my mom would make stuff, but then she would always send me to the Ray's IGA to go. We had a Chester fried chicken or whatever in it, and I'd get a large bucket of chicken because as we were talking after your message, we're like, like you need all those other things, but like the kids there, they wanted the fried chicken.
They want the drumstick.
Yeah, they don't want the 3-bean casserole or whatever. They don't understand the beauty of it. They just want
Jello
fried.
with the fruit and then the shaved carrot.
The seven-layer salad.
No,
But
no,
I loved it because my mom would send me once I could drive, and I would go get this giant bucket of chicken. Then I'd open it right outside the church because I'd leave like right during the benediction. And I would eat a drumstick in my car and then go in and be like, all right. Because I knew by the time you hit high school, they expect you to be at the back of the line.
Yeah.
You're no longer the cute kid. So I'm like, I'm not going to get any
sneak
of
a
this
drumstick.
chicken.
Great memory. Last one.
It was actually similar. I remember because you're the pastor's kid, back of the line, and so I was like, I would always sit there. I'd be counting the drumsticks. I'd be like, is there any left? Is there any? And like you'd always get up and you'd end up with like some chicken thigh or like something that was left. And but yeah, I remember not really appreciating it because there's so many things. Like I said, like 7-layer salad. I was like, what? What person likes this mayonnaise salad? And so you start to miss it when you get older. But I really loved it, and there was my favorite thing that I always look forward to. There's a lady in my church that she would make angel food cake, but it would be iced on the outside. Like most people, just like angel food cake.
My grandma does. Like that's how she taught me.
Yeah, and I'm going, where's so the next time I would go, like every time you get in the store, it doesn't have icing on it, and I'm going,
I'll make you an iced angel food cake.
Oh my gosh, you'd be my
I
favorite
make them for
person in the whole
birthdays
wide world.
actually. So.
What about you?
I don't have a lot of potluck memories. I know we went to some. I'm just not. I guess I'm too picky of an eater to enjoy. Okay. Full disclosure. If I'm going through the line, I'm thinking, I wonder who made this. Do they have cats? Do they have like?
Oh,
Is there
man.
what is? I don't know. Like,
But that was-
I don't.
That was the beauty of it, though.
Don't
is
judge me, okay? Don't judge me.
they had, if you look, there'd be masking tape on
Yeah.
the dish, so you know who made it because they want their dish back. And like I'm telling you, when somebody didn't get their dish back from potluck, it was
man.
like they sent out search party in the church, and we had to come up with it.
Yeah, I'm just too warped. I'm thinking. That doesn't look like chicken. I have no idea.
They leave the 99 for the one, man.
for the one Pyrex.
All right. Well, tell us your favorite, favorite dish at a potluck, or your memory. I don't know. Email us. Let us know if any of this resonates with you. Thanks, guys. Had a great time. Awesome message. Appreciate it. We got 2 more weeks in the series. Then we're hitting the fall season and gonna run the rest of the year with a lot of passion and excitement. You
Love
guys
it.
ready?
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, man. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for some more stuff coming your way.
Hey, it's time for 7-Minute Stories here on the 167. With me here is my man AC Downs.
Hello.
So AC, you're going to be telling your 7-minute story. You even brought visual aids.
Yes, sir.
And so even if you're holding those up to the camera, just describe them to the people who are listening on the podcast. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see all these lovely pictures. So AC, I'm going to put 7 minutes on the clock, and here you go.
All right. So my story began 6 years ago. In June this year, it was 6 years ago. The thing that it resonates with me across the board. I'm 28 years old, and I had my first child 6 years ago. So I have pictures of him and how he was born. How he was born was extremely stressful. He was my future wife. She got preeclampsia. She was 17 weeks pregnant, and she ended up going into preterm labor and delivering early. So my son was, she was 23 weeks pregnant. He was 17 weeks early. So my son was born 1 pound, 3 ounces, and he was 12 inches long. And I have a few pictures here to kind of, give you a general idea. This is Grayson. This is the first picture he smiled for. A couple of photos that this is the first time I ever got to hold him, and we were doing kangaroo care right there.
He's so small.
Yeah, he was. He's a miracle. It was really trying times. Of all the times I can ever remember, that was the time where I was as close to God as I'd ever thought I'd ever be. And also at the same time, I was pushing him away. It was tough. There was moments where, as she was getting ready to deliver, so we started at Shawnee Mission Hospital, and they told us, hey, this is the story. You got preeclampsia. We're doing everything we can to keep that baby inside you.
Mm-hmm.
But she was just not having it. So they moved us to KU, and we ended up, when we got to KU, we had 12 hours, and he was out. I mean, she was a wreck. Just everything was going south. So out of nowhere, we were actually talking to the NICU doctor, he was just telling us how the the NICU works, trying to keep our spirits up. And out of nowhere, she's like, "It's got to go. We got to do this." So within 9 minutes, they took her out. She had 2 seizures. She had a seizure while they were wheeling her in, and she had a seizure as they were trying to get him out. All that happened within 9 minutes. I was getting dressed. I was trying to run in there, and I was getting dressed. Before I could even make it in there, they were like, "Nope, he's out." So they had him out, intubated in 9 minutes, and I remember seeing him for the first time, and they were wheeling him in a incubator. They were wheeling him down the hall, and they were like, "Come on, you got to hurry and see him." So I went and saw him, and I just remember my life just changed. There's no describing the feeling of pure joy, but pure, utter just, I've never been so scared. So he got up to the room, and I had my future father-in-law with me, and we stood there. We were the only people in the room. And I just remember looking at him, and I was like, why? It's like, why'd this happen? I'm like, it's not his fault. And we were just looking at him, and just out of nowhere, we got this photo here. And I'm a very symbolic person. So when they turned the lights off and I saw this, I just thought, wow, that's an angel. That's an angel. And I looked at my father-in-law, and I just broke down. I didn't know what else to do. I was scared. I was worried for him. They gave him about a 16% chance to live. And me and him talked, and he's like, "This is the time where we pray. This is the time." We prayed. We prayed harder than I think I've ever prayed in my life. Up until that point, I was on and off with God. I knew he was there. I was raised to know I was Christian and not know God, but know he was real. Wasn't really a spiritual family. It was hey, God's real and we love God. It was never explained to me how God was. So at that point, I realized that everything happens for a reason. And it's a saying in my family still to this day, God's got a plan. He certainly does. God's plan for my family was that. It brought a lot of us together. It completely, anything that was wrong in our family, it was put on pause and eventually just never even thought of again because of this little boy right here. His name's Grayson. Like I said, he's 6 years old. He just turned 6 in June. And he's the reason I believe in God. He had 2 surgeries while he was in the NICU. He was in the NICU for 4 months. He was released from the NICU the day after his original due date was in October. So he was released from the NICU then. Everything we did was kind of backwards. We hadn't even had a baby shower yet. So we had a baby shower while he was in the NICU. The day before he got released from the NICU. So
Well, it's amazing how God can take something that, evil intends and can turn into something good, something that unites your family and brings it around.
yeah.
What's your guys', I know that you've been at New Life just a short time.
Mm-hmm.
What's that been like? How are you guys growing today? Like, how's Grayson doing now?
Oh, he is amazing. I love that boy. He's as ornery as a 6-year-old can be. And he is just, every day I wake up and I look at him, and before I go to work, I'm up at 5 in the morning. I'm out the door by 5:30, and I always, no matter what, I do the dad thing. I go in there, kiss him on the forehead, and I tell him, "You're a miracle, kid. You're the reason I do this every morning." And our journey led us here. It's hard to explain. It wasn't by dumb luck. It was written somewhere. This was the plan. We were destined for this place. I moved out here to Gardner 7 years ago when I met my future wife. When we met, I moved out here to, kind of be with her. I was in no place I was going down a pretty bad road. I was not doing very well. And Every day since I moved out here, I'd see that church. I worked right up the street at a plumbing company right up the road. I worked there, so I drove by this place probably probably 1,000 times, honestly. And we finally just, we were like, let's do this. We reached out to New Life for some help financially, and they helped us. And from that point on, I've just been head first. You guys have taken us in like a family, and that's one of the strongest things in my life. The thing that I look for in any person is your bond, your family bond, your friendship. If you hold your family on a pedestal, then I know you have good morals. And that's the one thing here at New Life that I've felt more than anything is the family connection. Hey, you're one of us now. Hey, we love you. Hey, and I give that back in return. I've not questioned anything. I feel better. I feel better. I feel like I can breathe a little easier, knowing that my relationship with Jesus is getting a lot stronger every day. It taught me, like you guys are teaching me how to strengthen my relationship with Jesus, and that helps me every day. Somebody I can talk to,
That's good. And then you guys have a wedding coming up in a couple of weeks,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, you guys are just going full tilt, just going after
yeah.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, we're head first, and we're not looking back. God has a plan, and this is our plan, and we intend to see it straight through.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming and sharing your story,
No
AC.
problem. Appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope it blesses people out there. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardner.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.